It now smells like a humid day inside Joy Behar's moo-moo. The motives stink worse than Joy Behar's jog bra. I mean, assuming she jogs. Oh, wait, there she is. She has a point. Maybe I am obsessed, but some people are obsessed with Bigfoot, and they don't get to see him on TV every afternoon. And if they did, could they tell the two apart? I don't know. But
there are three things in life that seem impossible to avoid: death, taxes, and Joy Behar shoehorning her political wisdom into daytime television like a retired theater teacher who just discovered Twitter. For over 2 decades, she's transformed The View into a gladiator arena of half-baked takes and overcooked outrage, proudly turning every conversation into an unsolicited TED Talk that no one asked for. Last week, Joy Behar accused Elon Musk of being pro-Aryan, then later begged him not to sue, a moment of legal self-preservation that stood in stark contrast to her usual unwavering confidence. But just when you thought it couldn't get more surreal, along came two of the most ideologically opposed men in media, Bill Maher and Greg Gutfeld, tag-teaming from across the political abyss to serve one purpose: reminding everyone that Joy Behar might just be the mascot of America's media meltdown.
And by the way, out there, that hat that you keep wearing, that red hat that says "Make America Great Again," that tells people that you go along with this. So you might as well just put a swastika on the hat.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
Because we see it anyway.
I'm not going to defend Donald Trump ever, but I would never say that we should put the swastika on the cap, because I think you can hate Donald Trump. You can't hate everybody who likes him. It's half the country. I don't want to live in that country. I don't want to live in the country where I hate half the country, and I don't hate half the country.
How dare you disagree?
What happens when these two, Bill Maher with his sarcasm scalpel and Greg Gutfeld with the snark of a caffeinated raccoon, unite? Absolute comedic carnage. Joy's ego didn't make it out alive. If you've ever wanted to witness a roast so brutal it could qualify as a controlled burn, buckle up, because Maher and Gutfeld just turned Joy's entire worldview into a punchline. This wasn't a debate, it wasn't a round table, there was no face-to-face confrontation. Just two very different men, armed with sarcasm and broadcast platforms, independently arriving at the same scorching conclusion. Joy Behar has become the human embodiment of what happens when cable TV goes unchecked, and frankly, a hilarious, unintentional satire of itself. She once famously, or perhaps infamously, compared wearing a "Make America Great Again" hat to putting a swastika on your head, a declaration so breathtakingly out of touch, it left even moderate voices reeling. Yet, she seemed baffled when anyone dared to question the extremity of her statement.
last week, Joy Behar accused Elon Musk of being pro-apartheid, but then begged him afterwards not to sue. Musk lawyers have yet to comment because they're still checking to see if it's legal to sue a cow.
Shots fired.
Just a legal question. I don't know why it's so upsetting. I don't make the rules in this country. All right.
Now, you might be asking, how could two such diametrically opposed figures, Bill Maher, the weary liberal skeptic, and Greg Gutfeld, the chaotic conservative provocateur, find common ground in their comedic assault? It's simple. They both recognize the same fundamental flaw in the modern media landscape, a flaw personified by Behar. Maher isn't exactly a stranger to skewering stupidity, but in recent years, he's turned it into a full-time gig, especially when that stupidity is camouflaged as progressive enlightenment. He made a name out of sighing loudly into his monologues, like a weary uncle forced to explain basic economics to a dinner table full of people who think TikTok is a reliable news source. But lately, his frustration has evolved into something even more potent. A relentless crusade against shallow media figures pretending to be intellectual heavyweights. If Maher's political disappointment had a poster child, it would have Bangs and be sitting stage left on The View, nodding furiously to her own hot takes.
Paul, I don't think they meant this when Barbara Walters invented it a long time ago, but it's The View.
Well,
that's the problem in America.
But
there is one view,
right, and
one
that's clearly
true opinion, and everybody else can go sit in the corner.
That's correct. I think that's not...
It wasn't a debate. It wasn't a round table.
Maher didn't need to say her name directly. It was written all over his critiques. He attacked the very culture that Behar has been spoon-feeding to viewers for decades, a culture where emotional outbursts replace facts, where hosts mistake applause for accuracy, and a panel that treats dissent like a personal betrayal. He rolled his eyes at the performative virtue signaling. He roasted the obsession with outrage as entertainment. And while he was busy dissecting liberal groupthink like it was a frog in biology class, it became glaringly obvious who that frog resembled. Behar wasn't just caught in the crossfire, she was the inspiration. For Maher, she represents a progressive parody, the type of liberal who thinks yelling louder makes you righter, who swaps out nuance for smugness, and who believes moral superiority is best expressed with a side of condescension and a dramatic eye roll. He views her as the woman climbing onto the bar table to announce she's offended on behalf of the entire planet, ignoring logic in favor of theatricality. His scathing commentaries didn't just skim the surface of daytime nonsense, they drilled into it like an oil rig powered by sarcasm and intellectual exhaustion, exposing the hollow core of what passes for political discourse on certain shows.
Said that Gutfeld talks about you all the time.
Who is he? Well, really, who is he?
I don't watch the show.
He has a show.
I don't watch the
never
show.
heard of him.
Yeah.
I guess he's just obsessed with me.
No. Next, Joy's going to say she's never heard of carbs. Seriously, her denial of knowing me is as believable as her red hair. But obsession? I mean, come on, Joy. Where would you even get that idea? Like Joy Behar's face, it's looking worse and worse by the day. More full of crap than Joy Behar after a night of scotch and Taco Bell. Her being named Joy is like me being named ugly. Joy wasn't there on the show. Apparently Mondays are her days off when she feeds in the pasture.
But then there's Greg Gutfeld. If Maher is the disillusioned liberal, quietly writing scathing essays in the margins of the Democratic Handbook, Gutfeld is the snarky kid in the back row drawing caricatures of the teacher, and those caricatures are now getting primetime ratings. Gutfeld is like if your skeptical friend with a Twitter addiction was given a TV show, a desk, and permission to roast everyone. He doesn't enter with policy breakdowns or deep historical context, he just charges in with punchlines and the chaotic energy of someone who thinks satire should sting a little. When Gutfeld set his sights on Joy Behar, it wasn't a surgical strike. It was a stand-up routine with missile-grade sarcasm. To him, Behar isn't just a misguided commentator, she's comedy gold. A never-ending stream of tone-deaf declarations wrapped in the delusion of moral high ground, delivered with the subtlety of a fire alarm. Remember that time she suggested she wouldn't give a Trump supporter a kidney? A joke that exposed a chilling undercurrent of genuine resentment? Gutfeld revels in pointing out such absurdities.
If The View is your favorite show, you might be a little slow. Yes, it's time for
Our View on The View.
very serious music. They love to play the race card because logic for them is hard.
Where Maher criticizes Behar for what she represents in liberal ideology, Gutfeld lampoons her as a product of media elitism, someone who graduated summa CM loud from the school of shouting over guests. He doesn't need flowery metaphors, he just points at the absurdity and laughs until the audience joins in. When you're watching Gutfeld break down one of Behar's on-air sermons with the grace of a drunk juggler, it becomes painfully clear. This isn't political analysis, it's demolition with a smile. He frames her like a relic of a time when network TV thought having a loud opinion was the same as having a good one. In Gutfeld's eyes, Behar's takes are the intellectual equivalent of a toddler banging on a piano. Loud, chaotic, and technically music if you squint hard enough.
I just want them to pay attention to words like vermin and poisoning the blood and the Third Reich. That's all. That's really what I'm asking.
They see Trump as a comedian. They see him as a clown who says crazy things.
They saw Hitler like that.
Right, okay, but that doesn't mean, you can hate Trump. You can't hate everybody who likes him. It is half the
The beauty of it all? Maher and Gutfeld didn't coordinate a thing. They're not buddies. They'd likely avoid each other at a party. But somehow, they managed to land on the same conclusion without even sharing notes. Joy Behar is the Sistine Chapel of misguided commentary, painstakingly crafted over years, full of detail, and wildly overestimated in value. Both men saw the same symptoms, ego masquerading as expertise, moral outrage substituting for argument, and the total abandonment of intellectual curiosity. But their diagnosis came from different hospitals. Maher wrote her off as a cautionary tale of progressive excess. Gutfeld framed her as the blooper reel of serious journalism. It's poetic in a way. Two TV personalities coming from ideological zip codes on opposite sides of the map, both deciding that Joy Behar was the hill neither wanted to die on. Instead, they used her as a piñata of political parody, blindfolded, spinning, and swinging hard.
State is getting hit with one of the worst hurricanes that will ever stand.
But she should know, does anyone remember that time when she got carried away by Hurricane Sandy? Take a look. Thank you.
And while Behar didn't respond directly, she didn't need to. The damage was done by implication. This wasn't a war of words. It was a roast by reality. Maher rolled his eyes across an entire ideology. Gutfeld laughed his way through a personality cult, and in the middle stood Behar, the unwilling star of a bipartisan comedy special. The timing couldn't have been worse or better, depending on your sense of humor. As political discourse continues to slide into the kiddie pool of public opinion, the last thing anyone needed was a woman yelling into a void of applause signs and coffee mugs. But there she was, a beacon of everything Maher critiques and Gutfeld ridicules. It's like if a cartoon character wandered into a documentary and refused to leave. Maher built his argument like a philosophy professor who finally snapped. Gutfeld just popped in, kicked over the podium, and made a fart joke with a punchline. And somehow, they both exposed the same truth.
Mocking with a smirk from his satire dungeon.
I want to talk about Whoopi Goldberg because I got so many texts this week because she attacked me the week before.
Sure.
So she was, everybody was like, oh, Bill, I get you're enjoying the karma. First of all, I'm going to talk about this at the end of my show next week, teaser. But there is no fucking thing as karma, okay? Get over that. Whoopi attacks me on a regular basis. She says stupid shit on a regular basis. It just happened to coincide. But
Joy Behar is the political pundit equivalent of a laugh track, there to signal when the audience is supposed to care, even when the content isn't funny. And make no mistake, this isn't personal, it's cultural. Joy Behar isn't just Joy Behar, she's symbolic. She's the echo of a media era where yelling was treated as bravery and nuance was booed off stage. She's the grand finale of a fireworks show that ran out of sparks 10 seasons ago, but kept firing dud after dud because someone lost the off switch. What makes it worse or better for comedy is that Behar seems blissfully unaware. That smug confidence that radiates off her like a scented candle at a yoga retreat, that's what Maher skewers. That's what Gutfeld roasts. The idea that being loud and repetitive somehow equals being informed. The unwavering belief that a television platform equals intellectual superiority. And the total lack of self-awareness that makes it all accidentally hilarious.
And finally, new rule, stop saying that Whoopi Goldberg getting yanked from The View right after she attacked me on The View is karma. There's no such thing as karma, sorry. Sorry, but life is random. The only word to describe it when a big game hunter gets trampled by an elephant and then eaten by lions is hilarious.
In a way, Maher and Gutfeld became the unintentional buddy cops of media critique. One uses dry, cutting sarcasm, the other uses a leaf blower of mockery, and together they dismantled the myth of Joy Behar's credibility like a Lego tower built on a trampoline. Maher didn't need to say her name. His criticism of shallow liberal punditry was specific enough that it practically wore a red wig and asked for another segment on gun control. Gutfeld, on the other hand, didn't hold back. He lobbed grenades of satire with the joy of someone who knows they'll never be invited to brunch with the cast of The View and prefers it that way. What makes this roast actually worth paying attention to isn't just that Joy Behar got metaphorically bulldozed by two men who'd rather wrestle porcupines than agree on dinner. It's that their laughter, one from the liberal cocktail lounge, the other from the conservative dive bar, landed on the same target. And no, it's not because Behar is some Machiavellian mastermind pulling ideological strings. It's because she's the walking, talking embodiment of a cultural feedback loop that thinks self-righteousness is a personality trait.
Here's Joy Behar talking about refusing to share a kidney.
I could be friends with a Trump supporter. I won't give them a kidney, but I could be friends with them.
Hey, Joy, it's a kidney, not a pizza. Of course, she's kidding at first, but then she goes on to explain the moral foundation for her resentment, and it's the same one that drives all deadly ideologies.
Joy Behar.
See, The View has become less of a talk show and more of a group therapy session for the chronically overconfident. Joy doesn't debate, she declares. She doesn't question, she proclaims. It's a televised shrine to the holy gospel of unfiltered opinions wrapped in smugness. That's what Maher was rolling his eyes at from his high horse of long-form monologues. That's what Gutfeld was mocking with a smirk from his satire dungeon. They're not even in the same tax bracket of ideology, but somehow they both sniffed out the same rot in the room, the decay of honest discourse under the weight of empty applause lines. Joy Behar isn't just a panelist, she's the mascot of an era where loud equals smart and where having a platform automatically makes you an expert. And when both Maher and Gutfeld start sharpening their comedic scalpels for the same patient, you know the diagnosis isn't political, it's cultural cholesterol. Because let's face it, shows like The View operate in an echo chamber, so sealed off, even their Wi-Fi has an opinion. They preach to the choir with such fervor that even the choir starts wishing for subtitles. They've turned conversation into karaoke, repeating the same tunes with just enough sass to pretend it's original. And while the studio audience claps like trained seals at every sanctimonious hot take, the rest of us are watching from afar like it's a nature documentary on delusion, and that's the deeper punchline Maher and Gutfeld delivered. That comedy still has the guts to call out the absurd, even when the absurd is wearing professional makeup and sitting under studio lights. Maher brought the cerebral, wine-sipping snark. Gutfeld rolled in with the barbarian energy. Joy Behar, she brought whatever noise it is that happens when self-importance crashes into a wall of overdue reality. So maybe, just maybe, this wasn't about owning the libs or dunking on the right. Maybe it was just about reclaiming comedy's rightful throne as the one place where nonsense, no matter which political jersey it's wearing, gets smacked with a laugh track and sent back to the green room. In a world that can't agree on what day it is, we can all still come together, united by one beautiful truth. Joy Behar's latest take was once again hilariously facepalm-inducingly wrong, but here's the kicker. They weren't even trying to humiliate her, not really. They were making points, jokes, observations, and Joy Behar just happened to be the punchline hiding in plain sight. It's like discovering the main character of a sitcom you've been hate-watching is also the one writing the script. They didn't just roast her, they turned her into a metaphor for everything that's gone wrong with political talk shows. So no, this wasn't a debate. This wasn't a confrontation. This was a masterclass in mutual roasting broadcast across two networks united by a single theme. If Joy Behar is the voice of reason, we're all in deep trouble. Maher delivered the lecture. Gutfeld brought the popcorn. And Joy, well, she unintentionally gave them both the material of a lifetime without even realizing she was the joke. And that truly is what bipartisan comedy looks like.